name is Caroline, and at 33 years old, my parents texted, "We know you paid the $46,000 for the venue, but Lily's fiance doesn't want you at the wedding." I still showed up. My sister threw her champagne and yelled, "Who invited Ms. Budget?" Mom pulled me aside. "Say sorry. Don't ruin her day." I just smiled and withdrew my support. The next morning, I got a letter from the groom. He thanked me for, I got the text the night before the wedding. "We know you paid for the venue, but the groom doesn't want you there. $46,000. That's what I wired to the event planner just last month. The full cost of the venue, including booking fees, security, lighting, and even the welcome fireworks. I paid every dime, and they didn't want me there." I read the message 3 times, sitting in my apartment in silence. My old Toyota Corolla parked out front like it knew how many trips we'd made to wedding prep sessions. My hands were shaking. My inbox was still full of vendor invoices. My fridge still had the sample cake from last Tuesday's tasting, and she didn't want me there, so I put on my best suit and I showed up. The moment I stepped onto the venue's marble entranceway, I could feel it, the chill. No one said hi. No one made eye contact. The air was thick with silence and fake smiles. I spotted her by the stage, my sister Lily, stunning in her white dress. But when our eyes met, her jaw tightened like my presence was a stain on her curated fantasy. She once called me Ms. Budget, a mocking nickname she used whenever I had to say no to one of her outlandish ideas. No to a $12,000 couture gown she wanted shipped from Milan. No to importing French florists for a 1-hour floral arch. No to $8,000 designer wedding bands when the groom still didn't have a full-time job. But I still paid. I still showed up to every appointment. I still took days off work, sacrificing a promotion just to help pick out table linens because I thought it mattered, because I thought I mattered. She once told her fiancé, "My family's wealthy. You don't need to contribute. This is my event." And he just nodded like a passive participant in a production I was bankrolling. Then came the moment. I was standing near the hors d'oeuvres table trying to blend in when I heard the voice. Sharp, loud, venomous. "Who invited Ms. Budget?" A champagne glass exploded against the floor beside me. Lily was glaring at me in full bridal rage. Guests turned. Murmurs rose. I hadn't even said a word. Before I could move, my mother grabbed my arm and pulled me aside, her tone urgent but hushed. "Please apologize. Don't ruin her day. Apologize for showing up to the wedding I paid for." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make a scene. I smiled and I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, scrolled to pending transfers. Tap. Cancel transfer. Catering gone. Transportation canceled. Cake not coming. Everything unraveled in minutes. People started whispering. The band left first. Then the food truck driver made a scene at the gates. My sister's dream collapsed faster than a house of cards in a wind tunnel. Panic, chaos, shouts. And I stood quietly in the middle of it all, because sometimes silence is louder than fireworks. You'd think $46,000 would buy at least a thank you, or maybe just a seat at the wedding I funded. But that's the thing about entitlement. It never says thank you. It just asks what else you've got. Let me rewind. It started over a year ago. My sister Lily had just gotten engaged, and the news spread through the family group chat like wildfire. I was genuinely happy for her. She seemed over the moon until she sent me a voice note. "Hey, you know how expensive weddings are. Just need a tiny bit of help to get things rolling. Venue deposit mostly, just until we figure out the budget." That was the first ask. The deposit was $5,000. I wired it that same day. It felt good to help. She's my sister after all. Then came the second request. Ugh, disaster. The dress I love is $12,000. I know that's insane. I'll find another unless you think you could help. I said no to that one. That's when the sarcasm began. "You've always been the frugal one, Ms. Budget." Classic. She said it with a laugh in the chat, but the edge in her tone wasn't funny. Not to me. But I still paid for the photographer, $3,200. Then the DJ, another $2,000. Then music licensing, venue lighting, an outdoor breakfast tent for the post-wedding family brunch. Each time it was just one more thing. "You're the only one who can help. We don't want to involve his side of the family." That part made my stomach churn. It wasn't just about the money, it was about control. Lily didn't want a wedding. She wanted a social exhibit, a showcase for her status. The guest list looked like an Instagram highlight reel. Influencers, sponsors, bloggers, and me. I was the financier who wasn't allowed in the photos. It would be funny if it weren't so insulting. I should probably tell you who I am. I'm 33, an art director at a small creative agency. I design brand campaigns, pitch decks, and packaging for mid-range cosmetics and retail startups. It's not Silicon Valley money, but it's good work, honest work. I live in a rental one-bedroom walk-up, leaky faucet, ancient fridge. I drive a 2009 Toyota Corolla with a duct-taped side mirror, but my bills are paid. My credit's good. And I believed in helping family. Even when it stretched me thin, until it didn't stretch, it snapped. You want to know what snapped it? Her text about the rings. Just found the perfect designer wedding bands. They're $8,000. I know it's a lot, but we're building a legacy, right? I asked, where's he in all this? She replied, it's not really his place. This is our family's event. He's just the groom. That's when I realized I wasn't supporting a marriage. I was funding a pageant. She didn't even let him contribute. Said she wanted it to look like it came entirely from our side, the illusion of wealth built entirely on my back. The worst part? It started bleeding into my real life. I missed a pitch meeting to attend her cake tasting. Lost a client that day. A big one. My manager said I needed to recalibrate my priorities. My girlfriend, now ex, walked out 3 months before the wedding. Said she felt like she was dating an ATM for someone else's dream. I don't even think she likes you, she told me, crying. She just knows you'll pay. She wasn't wrong, but I wasn't ready to face that. Not yet. Things got worse. A month before the wedding, I found out Lily had told all her friends, and even some vendors, that I was just helping with logistics. I've covered everything. The whole vision is mine, she said in an Instagram Q&A. My name didn't appear once, not in the captions, not in the credits. I paid for the morning after brunch for 60 people. The thank you card went to her college roommate who brought cupcake toppers. Even my parents played along. Mom would say things like, you're doing your duty as the big sister. This is what family does, right? Family quietly bleeds so a bride can cosplay as royalty. And yet I kept going. I kept wiring money because I was waiting for one thing. Recognition? Gratitude? No. I was waiting to see if they'd ever realize I wasn't just a bank account. Spoiler alert, they didn't. Then came the rehearsal dinner. I wasn't invited. Let that sink in. I was the primary financial backer of the $70,000 circus, and they forgot to include me in the dinner the night before. When I texted Mom about it, she said Lily thought it might be awkward with some of the influencer crowd. Awkward? You mean the woman who paid for the catering might clash with the people eating it? It took every ounce of restraint not to cancel everything that night, but I waited because I wanted it to happen publicly, because I wanted the collapse to be unmistakable. The day of the wedding, when I stepped into that venue and felt the frost in the air, I already had the cancellation app open on my phone. When Lily threw that champagne glass, that was the final nudge. I smiled, and I pressed cancel transfer on every pending invoice, and that's when it all fell apart. The caterers didn't arrive. The wedding planner started panicking. I saw her on the phone, yelling into the void. The delivery truck with the floral arch turned around mid-road. Guests murmured. Then someone announced, "The bar is closed." The music stopped mid-track. I watched the DJ unplug his equipment and walk out with his backpack slung over one shoulder. Lily was pale. The groom looked confused. "What's happening?" he asked. "Didn't your family cover this?" That's when Lily's fake smile cracked, and I walked past her, calm, unbothered, unapologetic, because for once I didn't pay to be ignored. The second I hit cancel transfer on my phone, I watched the venue start to glitch like a high-budget Broadway show that suddenly lost power mid-act. The signs were subtle at first. The bar staff stopped pouring. No one made announcements. Waiters stood in the back, whispering nervously and checking their phones. I could hear the wedding planner breathing into her headset like she was calling NASA about a mission abort. Then the caterer's van never arrived. Then the wedding cake didn't show. Then the champagne ran out. Then the DJ unplugged mid-song, muttered something about unpaid deposits, and left the booth in silence. It was slow chaos, quiet panic, polished people looking confused in formal wear, holding empty glasses. Lily noticed at last. She looked around, then at me, like a wolf cornered in her own fantasy. What is going on? I sipped water from the one vendor still functioning, the hydration station I didn't pay for. Then she screamed, loud enough to silence the chatter. "Did you do something?" Every head turned. I didn't yell. I didn't raise my voice. I just walked to the center of the room, calm and deliberate, and said, "You're right, Lily. I shouldn't be here. You said so yourself. I'm Ms. Budget, not part of the aesthetic, just the woman who pays the bills." I paused. So I stopped paying. Gasps, murmurs. Someone dropped a flute of Prosecco. She stepped forward, mascara already beginning to smudge. You can't just ruin my wedding. Your wedding? I laughed, finally, bitterly. You mean the one I paid for? The groom, who'd been standing silently beside her, turned his head sharply. Wait, what? Yeah, I said. Maybe someone should have told you that your wedding venue, your brunch, your tent, your string quartet, that wasn't funded by some magical fairy godmother. It was me. He looked stunned. I thought her parents... Nope, I said. They paid for some napkins and a nice sculpture nobody wanted. Everything else came from my modest art director's salary and my declining mental health. Lily spun on her heel and hissed, You're doing this because I didn't invite you to rehearsal. You're jealous. No, I said. I'm done being erased. The guests were really paying attention now. Phones came out. Whispers grew louder. Lily shrieked, You're ruining everything. I deserve this day. Yes, I nodded. You did. You deserve to have a day that reflects the person you've become. Selfish, entitled, ungrateful. So here it is. That's when the wedding planner, bless her rattled soul, stepped up to the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, due to an unexpected payment issue, the dinner portion of tonight's event will not proceed. Please feel free to enjoy the gardens until further notice. The gardens. Code for, please go stand outside while we try to salvage this disaster. Half the guests stood in awkward silence. Some left. And I just walked to the exit. But right as I reached the door, I heard her scream behind me. You're not family anymore. I turned around, smiled at her with the calm of a woman who had nothing left to lose, and replied, Then send me an invoice. Outside, the groom chased me into the parking lot. Is this true? He asked. You really paid for all of it? All but the wine, I said. That was her college friend's dad, apparently. Jesus, he muttered. She told me it was family savings, that her parents handled it. I nodded. She also told me you were just the guest of honor. His hands ran through his hair, the kind of motion someone makes when their entire worldview collapses. Then he said the one thing that caught me off guard. I'm sorry. And he meant it. Back inside, it was chaos. Vendors packed up their gear. Drunken friends stumbled out, furious that the open bar had vanished. Influencer guests quietly deleted Instagram stories in real time. Lily was still screaming. My mother was crying. My father was demanding someone fix this. The cake delivery guy arrived late, saw the disaster, and left with the cake still in his truck. And in the middle of it all, my family acted like I had betrayed them. But here's the thing. I didn't ruin the wedding. I just stopped subsidizing the delusion. I left without another word. No drama, no violence, no broken glasses. Just me and my Toyota Corolla rolling out of a $70,000 graveyard of entitlement. As I drove, I got a text from Lily. I hope you're happy. I didn't reply, but I smiled. Because for the first time in my adult life, I wasn't the family piggy bank. I was Caroline, the woman who stood up. The next morning, my phone lit up at 7:12 a.m. Not from my mother, not from Lily. It was a name I didn't recognize at first. Ethan Groom. I blinked at the screen, still in bed, still in disbelief over what had happened the night before. Can we talk? The message read. I owe you an explanation. Attached was a PDF. Subject, I'm sorry you paid for the lie. I opened it, and I wasn't ready for what came next. I didn't know. Not really. I thought she was paying for it from savings, gifts, some family contributions. I offered to help many times. Lily said, My sister's handling logistics. Don't stress. She never said you paid for the venue or the photographer or the food. She said her side of the family had it covered. She said I should focus on showing up and looking good. Last night, after you left, I confronted her. I asked why she lied, why she made a castle out of borrowed bricks. You know what she said? Because this was supposed to be my day. She owes me that much. I asked what you owed her. She said, You're the one with no husband, no kids, no mortgage. What else is she for? That was the moment I knew. By now, I was sitting upright in bed, reading every line like it was written in blood. She wasn't marrying me, he wrote. She was marrying a fantasy. A narrative where you were the ATM, her friends were the audience, and I was the prop. I never wanted this kind of wedding. I just wanted to build something real. But she wanted to be seen, so she used you and me and everyone else. Then came the sentence that broke me. I canceled the honeymoon this morning. I told her I need time, not because I'm angry at her, but because I'm ashamed I didn't see any of this sooner. There was a final paragraph. You were the only one who actually built something. Not for the gram, not for clout, but because you thought it mattered. You didn't deserve what happened. If I ever get married for real, not for optics, not for likes, I hope it's to someone who has your kind of integrity. I'm sorry, and thank you for exposing the illusion. I sat with that message for a long time. Then I turned my phone off and breathed. For the first time in a year, I wasn't suffocating under the weight of someone else's expectations. Then came the family group chat. Mom, Lily is devastated. You humiliated her on the most important day of her life. Dad, you could have handled it differently. You embarrassed us in front of doctors, lawyers, judges. Aunt Mira, I left early. People were asking questions. Is everything okay? Cousin Mark, Sis, what was that? Uncle Brian, that was epic. Immediately removed by admin. And finally, Lily. I hope you never have to experience the shame I felt last night. You ruined everything. I didn't respond. Instead, I typed one line, deleted it, typed another, then sent it. I didn't ruin it. I just stopped lying for you. That night, I turned my phone off again. No more apologies, no more explanations. I sat on my couch, poured myself a glass of the cheap red wine I'd been saving, and scrolled through old photos of me and Lily as kids. One stuck out. Halloween 2002. She was dressed as a princess. I was a cardboard robot. Even then, I remember her crying until I gave her the candy from my bucket. And I gave it, because that's what I was trained to do. Give quietly, without question. But not anymore. The next week, I got a message that nearly undid me, from someone I never expected. Her old college roommate, Tara, the one who made the cupcakes. Hey, I just wanted to say I saw everything that happened. And I want you to know people noticed. They saw what you did, and they talked about it afterward. Not in disgust, in awe. You stood up for yourself, for your worth, for the truth. Most people would have stayed quiet. You didn't. You didn't scream. You didn't punch. You didn't humiliate. You simply took your power back with one click. That was art. By Friday, I heard the venue was taking legal action for unpaid deposits. The planner posted a vague tweet about influencer brides being blacklisted. The photographer shared a single black and white image of a half-set table with the caption, "Silence speaks." And Lily, she posted nothing. For the first time in a year, her feed was quiet. No filters, no captions, no tags. Only silence. And silence, it turns out, is loud. 2 weeks after the wedding meltdown, I sold my car. My old faithful Corolla. Duct-taped mirror, sticky gear shift and all. The mechanic who bought it asked if I was finally upgrading. I told him I was finally unloading. With the cash, I booked a cabin in the mountains, one with no Wi-Fi, no guests, no champagne flutes. Just silence, trees, and a porch that creaked when I walked across it barefoot. And for the first time in over a year, I breathed like I owned the air. I brought my sketch pad and started drawing again. Not for clients or campaigns or pitches. For me. Raw, rough charcoal streaks, portraits of myself that looked nothing like the woman I'd become during that wedding year. Each stroke pulled me out of the version of me they wanted. The provider, the silent wallet, the background sister. I wasn't that anymore. One morning, I sat at the local cafe, a hole in the wall that smelled like pine wood and burnt espresso, flipping through one of my sketchbooks when the owner walked by. "You drew this?" I nodded, not really in the mood to explain. "We're opening a gallery space next door," she said. "You interested in curating the first exhibit?" Just like that, a door opened. Not because someone pulled strings. Not because I sacrificed myself for someone else's dream. Because I showed up for myself. That same night, my phone buzzed. It was from Mom. "Lily wants to talk. She's pregnant." I looked at the message. Then at the stars outside the cabin window. Then at the mountains, silhouetted in silver. And I didn't reply. Because pregnancy wasn't a reset button. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't redemption. It was another narrative she wanted to control. Another mask she'd wear to crawl back into the spotlight. And I wasn't stepping into her cast anymore. A week later, I opened a letter from the venue. They were suing Lily for breach of contract. Apparently, my cancellations triggered a domino effect of unpaid vendors, broken deals, and revoked licenses. The price tag, $83,000. And no, they weren't looking at me. I'd canceled my transfers legally before any fulfillment. It was her show. Now it was her wreckage. I went back to the gallery 2 weeks later. Mounted 6 pieces. Called the series Unpaid Debts. Every frame was a metaphor. A wedding chair with no name card. A diamond ring melting into a wine glass. A table set for a party where no one showed up. The exhibit opened on a Friday night. People came. People stared. People asked who inspired it. A ghost, I said. One I buried myself. The final message came on a Sunday. Lily again. No caps, no emojis, just raw words. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I hear the silence at my wedding. People talk about you like you're some martyr. They don't know the pressure I was under. They don't know how hard it is to be seen. But you made them see you instead. You won. I hope you're proud. I stared at it for a moment. Then I typed, "I'm not proud. I'm free." And I blocked her. I don't know what comes next. Maybe I move out here permanently. Maybe I open a studio. Or maybe I disappear into the trees forever and become a weird hermit who paints trauma and pastels. But I know this. I'm no longer the sister they brag about, then hide. I'm no longer the woman who funds everyone else's spotlight. I'm the one who wrote the final line of my family's fantasy. And this time I chose the seat at the table. One where silence is respected, not erased. Where boundaries aren't negotiable. Where no one throws champagne. But everyone raises a glass. To peace. To power.